Now, Paul does something here that's a little bit jarring, because he's just spoken about peace and access, of standing in grace and hope of the glory of God. And just when you expect him to stay there, to kind of keep building momentum upwards, to keep speaking about blessings, he turns and he says, not only that, as if to say, but wait, there's more. And then what comes next is not what you'd expect. We rejoice in our sufferings. Listen, if you're honest, that doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound intuitive. It doesn't even sound desirable. Because suffering, by its very nature, is the opposite of everything he just described. Peace feels steady. Suffering feels disruptive. Grace feels welcoming. Suffering feels disorienting. Grace feels expansive. Suffering feels constrictive. How can you move from peace with God to rejoice in your suffering? Here's the tension. And if you don't feel the tension, you won't understand what he's saying. Paul isn't minimizing suffering. He's not saying it's easy. He's not saying it's pleasant. None of that. He's actually saying something a lot more surprising. That suffering in the life of somebody who has peace with God does not have the same meaning that it once did. It's not random. It's not empty. It's not ultimate. It is working. Let's look at what he says. Knowing that suffering produces endurance. There's a knowledge here. Not instinct, not feeling, knowledge. Something that Christians come to understand over time, that suffering is not wasted. Be very careful as you read this. Suffering in and of itself doesn't automatically produce endurance. Left to itself, suffering can produce bitterness and despair and withdrawal and hardness. We've all seen that. Have you not seen that? We've seen people go through difficulty and come out cynical and more closed and more guarded. So Paul's not saying suffering by its own power produces something good. He's saying this in the context of grace. For those who stand in grace and have peace with God, suffering gets pulled up into something much bigger. Suffering is a kind of testing ground. It reveals whether our hope is real. And then you know what? When by grace we endure and we continue to trust and we don't walk away, it doesn't create hope out of nothing. It confirms it and strengthens it and deepens it. And Paul can say, hope does not put us to shame. It will not disappoint.